City Matters.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Richard Acritelli, and on today's episode of The Fog of War and Humanity, my special guest to the left of me is Assistant Chief Michael Meyers from the New York City Fire Department, who will be talking to us today about his extensive experiences within the fire department. Mike, where did you grow up, and what were some of your interests as a kid?
I grew up in Levittown, New York, one of four boys, and everything we did was all about sports and competing. So, you name it, I played it, except for soccer. We didn't do any soccer.
Okay.
We all
What sports did you guys do?
we all football, wrestling, baseball, lacrosse, anything that had any kind of physical contact
Little
to
contact,
it. Yeah,
little-
exactly.
So you guys broke a lot of lamps in your parents' house then, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Wrestled a lot on the living room rug and then broke some lamps at home as
Sure.
well.
Now, where were you in the pecking order there?
So I was second out of four brothers. So, again, just a great spot to be in. Got to learn a lot from my older brother. He kind of guided the way for us, and then the rest of us just followed and, followed the lead and went on from there.
What part of Levittown did you grow up in?
So we grew up on the Hicksville-Levittown border, right near, Levittown Parkway.
Okay.
In Levittown over there.
Right near, was that 106 Newbridge
106
Road?
Newbridge Road, yep, 100%.
I taught at Hicksville High School for a year, and my father had a trucking business, and he worked for Sears in Hicksville. So here I was like a Suffolk County kid, Port Jeff Station, but my grandfather lived in North Belmore. My father worked at Hicksville, and then I ended up doing deliveries there. And then it went back full circle. So I used to drive by Hicksville High School all the time, and then I taught there. And I coached baseball on that field on Newbridge Road.
Sure, yeah,
So
absolutely. I've played there. I played at Holy Trinity, but we played against Hicksville High School.
Is that where you
in
went to
some of
high
the
school?
Yes, some of the preseason stuff and some of the getting ready for the Catholic League season. We'd play, some of the public schools and stuff like that. So I know Hicksville High School well.
Did the Catholic education whip you guys into shape a little bit? Was it
Yeah, I think the discipline of that definitely helps. Especially when you move on further. Like my older brother was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I'm a chief on the fire department. My other brother's a chief on the fire department, and then my other brother is a lieutenant in Nassau County. So it taught us the discipline and the commitment to studying and good habits.
Sure.
That helped us as we were trying to achieve what we wanted to in life.
a very service-orientated family, right? Where did it start? Who did it start with?
Yeah, I would think it started with my father. My father at 17 joined the Marine Corps right around the time of the Korean War. He did his time in the Marines, came out of there, joined the Corrections Department in New York City, worked on Rikers Island when there was only one building in the mid-'60s.
So you saw a lot, right?
So
Between the military and
Oh, yeah, right,
corrections.
100%, yeah. And then he went over to the fire department in the late 60s, early 70s. He went over in 1968 to the fire department that's when the Bronx was burning and
Bronx
Brooklyn
was
was burning. And that was when they had to hire massive amounts of firefighters because of that New York City at that time was burning uncontrollably.
what would your father say? Would he talk about it, or would he just say it was just another rough night? Or
Well, you could always smell the smoke, the remnants of the smoke and on their body, on their clothes when he would come home from that. I know going there to the South Bronx back then in the early 70s, I remember
rough.
being a young kid. That looked like Beirut after Beirut was bombed, or I'm sure it's like some of the parts of the Ukraine right now.
well, Ronald Reagan, when he was going for president, his first in 1980, he said, "This looks like a third world area over here," and it was rough.
it's
South Bronx, Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it definitely did. I remember, again, like being 7 or 8 years old when the Yankees were playing in the World Series and they pan off in the 77 World Series. And there was a huge fire right across the street from the stadium pretty much. And the cameras were focusing on that as they're playing the World Series against
Sure.
the Dodgers.
Yeah,
So it was,
yeah.
it was a tough area. And going as a little kid too and just looking around and you just felt so horrible for the people. Because again, they lived around destruction and dirt and grime and boarded up windows. It just was like the perfect storm of bad politics.
Sure.
and human destruction.
Now, growing up in Levittown, for your dad, that had to be somewhat of a sanctuary, right? Because it's a huge suburban area. There's a million kids there. I mean, you go to the Catholic school, but Levittown had a couple different high schools, right? It was a big area, right?
Levittown's a big area. So again, that same type of thing. Like, growing up in Levittown, we had moved out there. I was originally born in Jackson Heights, Queens, and then we moved out there when I was about a year old. So going out there, and again, we had a ton of kids to play with. We played street hockey almost all the time.
Always something
every day.
to do, right?
Wiffle ball, baseball. What you don't see kids doing now, pickup football games, pickup baseball games.
They're doing their LOLs on the phones. And years ago, we were told to go outside and don't come back. And
right.
But there was things to do,
We played a lot of tackle football without any pads.
Where did you do that over there?
We did that mostly over in Red Wing, and Red Wing, which is a field, mostly a baseball field now, and then also Northside High School, which is Northside Grammar School, which is right behind my house.
Would you guys ever go to Eisenhower Park? Or?
Oh yeah, we spent a lot of time over there. Yeah, especially in high school. Chaminade and Kellenberg both have their home fields over there, so we played a lot of sports over there, and going over there and spend a lot of time now over there at the golf range.
Sure.
Trying to get a little bit better at this game you can't seem to get any better at, no matter what you do.
It's very frustrating.
Yes, it is.
Very tough sport,
But yet it's still better than being at work when you're out there on the course.
All right. So now you go to Holy Trinity, right? What year do you graduate?
I graduated Holy Trinity in 1987.
1987. So where do you go after that?
So I went to Long Island University at the Post campus over here. Got to play football up there at CW Post. So it was great. It was 15 minutes from home. I lived there, so it was all part of the situation. Just the whole college experience of living there. Made some incredible friends, some great friends.
What position did you play?
I was an outside linebacker and inside linebacker.
So, so you like to hit the quarterback a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Blitzing was always the most fun.
Yeah, sure.
I always hated when we played a team that was pass orientated, because you had to slide out over onto the slot and cover the slot most of the time, and you never got to get any of those real good hits in. Like, I always loved when we played a running team. That way you could stick your head in there, and kind of like, the Cam Scatterboo was doing the other day.
Yeah. You kind of look like him a little bit there.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Tough character, that guy.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I
and he likes to play. You know?
Being a Giant fan, it's just, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a rough 10 years, and even watching the Jets this morning, and another tough game this morning.
My business teacher at Comstock High School, he had all the passing records at CW Post in the 1960s, and their original Jerry Maguire broke his records, and he got signed by Lombardi.
Oh, wow.
And he was like the last quarterback to be cut. They were like looking for something a little bit different, and he met Lombardi, and they were both, even though Lombardi was from Brooklyn, he coached in St. Cecilia's in northern New Jersey, and he actually spoke to him and stuff like that. And he had all the records there at Post. So I did lawn sprinklers with him. So I always learned of the stories from Post. And there was some truly great players that came out of there. You had some very good talent that was there,
I think, mostly, a lot of blue collar kids went to Post.
Some local tough kids.
Some really, from all over Long Island, and from Queens. And
there was a guy, Perry Klein. Was he there when you were there?
He came the year after I left. I missed him by 1 year. If I would have went back and played my 5th year, then he would have been there.
Wow.
But he was a good player. There was some great guys I played with, but better than even the guys who made it a success in football. A lot of guys who went on to become principals and coaches all over Long Island.
Did you play with Jimmy Mimnor?
I did, yeah. Jimmy's a really good friend of mine.
The greatest guy. I saw him yesterday. He's
a great guy.
The best guy in the world.
Oh, yeah.
He'll knock you right out.
Enjoying it. He was one of my roommates up there at Post. So
great guy, right?
What he was like a great leader. Because even though we were younger and we played the same position, he never ever let that get in the way of being a good guy and a good mentor.
He didn't get too high, he didn't get too low. He just big smile,
steady and happy, and just would go out there and do his job. Not too flashy, but he would get the job done.
But he'd knock you on the ground though too.
Oh, no doubt. He's a tough guy.
All right. So now, what do you at Post? What do you study at Post?
I studied accounting.
Okay.
And I kind of, again, I was always very good at math. So when I went to Post, it was a natural fit. And then, at that time, I thought I wanted to be FBI or a police officer. So FBI only took like 3 degrees at that time. A tax, a degree in tax was one of them.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking I would go on to the FBI. But, lo and behold, I knew I couldn't sit behind a desk and
Sure.
just do paperwork all day.
Yeah.
So when I got the chance to go on the fire department right when I graduated, I took it. And
A young guy, right?
never looked
21,
back.
22
I was
years
22
old?
years old when I first got on. Now 34 and a half years later, it's amazing how fast time flies.
So what was that, about 91, 92?
September of 91 is when I first got on the fire department.
So what is your first recollections of being told, all right, you're going to the academy?
So I remember that I knew I was going. They give you the date. Going through the academy again, met some of the best people. Some people I'm still great friends with now. I know when I first came out, I got assigned to East New York and Brownsville, and then driving there
Very
from
busy area?
Very busy area. And I remember going there. It was only about 35, 40 minutes from home. And it was similar, again, reminded you of the South Bronx, because that was the end of the crack era, when there was still a lot of drugs and crack vials and whatnot all over the streets, the buildings. You would see people who were, who were thinned out, kind of like you see now with the opium problems and stuff like that.
I drove a truck in there, East New York, was at Pennsylvania Avenue and Linden Boulevard. And,
Oh yeah, that was right where I worked, and
Rough.
that was a 7-5 precinct. That was the murder and crime capital.
Yeah, that guy Dowd, right?
Yeah, the world. Yeah, he was a bad dude. Yeah.
So now, when you look back, right, you're talking to recruits today, young firemen, right? You come across everyone because you're a senior rank, and you've been in there for about 3 decades, right? What was the biggest challenge that you had in the academy?
I don't think the academy was really too challenging. I think the biggest challenge again was just learning to go into fires and those smoke conditions and finding out what it's like to really not see. Even when we have people come through the fire academy now as a chief of training, we have folks that come through and we show some politicians, some other folks that come through, do firefighter for a day type of things.
Who are not quite sure about the responsibilities, right?
And the first thing they always say is, wow, we never realized blacked out means blacked out.
We were wrong on this or that,
we can't believe that what it is really like when you go in there in those smoky conditions. And, again, you really get a feel for, when you go into these apartments, you go into these buildings and you can't see anything and you're feeling around, and the heat level as well. So you're down low, you're crawling around a doorway that's 3 feet away, seems like it's 3 miles away. And then once it lifts, you're like, oh my God, it's right there. I thought that was like a 3-mile journey, but just because of that. And
do you never have the same day twice?
Never had the same day twice. It's always different. Going to different buildings. In the fire department, we call firefighters tactical athletes. The biggest difference between us and, say, the NFL is that in the NFL or in Major League Baseball, they know what field they're playing on. They know what the weather conditions are going to be. They know who they're playing, what time, and what the weather.
So
we don't know what building we're going to, what time we'll go in there. So we don't get a chance to stretch out and do pregame warm-ups and get a feel for the lay of the land. That bell goes off. We go out there and then we're 0 to 100 in 3 or 4 seconds.
Is that the importance of being in an area for a while before you get transferred or you move somewhere else? Is that the importance of like a police officer knowing the area? It's the same for the fire department too, right?
Oh yeah, each neighborhood has its own specific type of buildings and some
different type of
uniqueness,
niches, right?
Yeah, some uniqueness, and then so you'll get a feel for all of that and how to fight those fires. So each borough, each neighborhood has their own take on that, and the firefighters become very adept at handling those type of structures and going into emergencies and fires in them.
And I'm sure the experiences were new for you and a little tough, but on the other side of the coin, you had that family background, right? Your father, corrections officer, fireman, he's tied to the city, even though you guys live out here a little bit, right? I mean, that had to help, I would imagine.
Yeah, again, you go in there, and what I always tell everyone when I'm talking to them is, again, you really learn to socialize with people of all ages, right? Because firefighters, I'm 22.
Yeah.
I'm working with guys who are in their 50s, in their 40s, who have families, who have kids my age, and you're learning to socialize and to work with them and become teammates with them. So that's the most interesting aspect of it. And again, so many of those folks helped me grow on the fire department and helped mold me into what I am today. The New York City Fire Department is 160 years old. And you think about it, you're only 2 or 3 generations of guys with 30 years on
Sure.
to get back to when we first became a paid department in the 1800s. So it's passing on that legacy is what it's all about.
Did playing football in terms of the team mentality, because it's not an individual sport. You just said about your buddy Jimmy Mimnor, right?
Yeah.
And there's probably 5 other guys that you played with that you could think of, right? Does that help you with the fire department, right? Because it's a very team-oriented, position.
Yeah, well, it's all teamwork on the fire department. The engine company is going to go in there, stretch their hose line, do what they have to do. I know they'll probably take a little flack for this, but I equate them to the offensive line or the defensive line
Sure,
in football. Right. They need to do what they do in order for a quarterback to throw a touchdown. So for the truck companies to get in there and do their vent entry and search, they need the protection of that hose line. That way we can help get people out so we could find the fire for the engine company to put out. So everybody has to do their job. And it's very specific on each type of structure, where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. Very similar to a game plan in football and how it all plays out.
And everyone's got a job, right?
Everyone has a job to do. And if someone messes up that job or is unable to do that job, you can have a profound impact on the operation.
Could be dire consequences too.
Right, exactly. What I always tell everyone, it's a life or death job. So, and again, like now there's been over 1,200 firefighters who've died in the line of duty in 160 years of being a department. So, again, it's not a kid's games. People have also been hurt and maimed. So you have to really look out for each other, really wear your personal protective equipment to the best of your ability. And again, learn lessons that are being taught to you along the way and take training very seriously.
I'm sure you've had some bumps and bruises along the way. Have you been injured where it was pretty serious or anything like that?
Again, everyone has I have never had any ultimately serious injuries. You have hurt knees, torn muscles, that type of thing. Thankfully, I haven't.
You feel it, right?
Right, and I haven't been hurt to that degree. Thankfully, always wearing my personal protective equipment the way it was assigned to me. Thankfully, I haven't spent any time in the burn center other than going with other folks who in my companies who went in there. And again, trying to, help support them as they're in there. Burn injuries are no joke.
Sure.
And what folks go through when they get those burn injuries is absolutely brutal. And then again, leaving those marks and those scars.
How long does it take? The burns, you would think, right? Like it affects almost everyone differently in some cases, right? It's a pretty serious
it's
injury,
very,
right?
when you're, if you get a serious enough burn above a 2nd degree or a 3rd degree burn, you're in that burn center in New York City and Cornell, who does a phenomenal job. The staff there does great work. But you're in there for a long period of time. And if you have to get skin grafts, they're in there with a wire bristle brush, scraping away at that scab every day. You're morphined up and, the pain that folks go through.
There's no comfort level at all, right?
There's no comfort level. And then some of the folks that you've seen who've gotten serious burns, doing amazing things on the fire ground.
Have you had friends that went through that process there?
Oh, many of them
Wow.
that have gone through that. And, when you look at their bodies and see just, the scarring that's left there and the pain that they've gone through. And when when you're talking about it, it's a tough scenario. So that's why we try to make sure that we have the best gear, and again, making sure that we do the research and development to ensure that we're working with our vendors constantly to make sure our firefighters are better protected. Sometimes I feel ancient after 34 years of, I started off, there was no bunker gear when we first started off. It was a jacket and pull-up boots. And then about year 4, we lost 3 firefighters in Watt Street. And then Rudy Giuliani at that time was the mayor of New York City, really forced the city council to fund us to get us that bunker gear, which has significantly...
more tools, right?
Yeah, which has significantly cut down on burns for firefighters. And we've just gotten better and better at it over the years.
It's something, because it usually takes something bad to happen for there to be change, right? So it's...
Always. Unfortunately, that's the way. We always say all books are written in blood.
Yeah.
And there's definitely no doubt that it's through folks getting hurt that we make that change. Because we never want it to happen again. I used to be the chief of safety for the fire department. And again, when we present reports after a firefighter dies in the line of duty, we present to the family. Almost every family member always asks us and tells us, to ensure that their loved one didn't die in vain. And that's up to us to make sure that we learn that lessons and pass on those lessons to folks so nobody else has to go through that.
Now, to get back to the burn center, are you in contact? Because you're a senior member today. You've been in a long time. You're pretty high up, right? Third highest in the New York City Fire Department, which is like an unbelievable feat itself. Do you talk to those doctors or those caregivers that often?
Not as much anymore. They come in and do a presentation for the probationary firefighters before they graduate probie school, just again so they can learn again. Sure. Like, you know, they're on the playground on Randall's Island or Fire Academy, you know, and they're there, and you know, to make sure that they realize that there's not all that monitoring.
Yeah,
you don't have the instructors. You know, when you go out there and do it for real. I always liken it again. My staff makes fun of me because I equate everything to football. And I like, you know, the preseason's over.
Yeah.
Now the real games are starting as you get out there.
The whistle's about to blow.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's for real.
Yeah.
You know, now the games count and you know, the hitting becomes real.
But you know what, though? That's not the worst way to put it, because a lot of those guys are physical guys. They played sports. You know, they're active, and they could identify with that, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I think similar to like the military, you know, probably 95% of us came from that world of sports or world of competition. And that just kind of what draws you to that, because you want that physical type of job, that camaraderie, you know, that brother and sisterhood of bonding with people. And again, you know, making something happen that you don't think can happen, you know, which is similar to what we grew learning up in sports, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, you know, it was always great to be the underdog going in there and everyone telling you can't beat someone. You go in there and then beat them.
Anybody could be beaten on any given day.
Oh yeah, right? and that's what we do, is we take these impossible situations and chaos and eventually bring order to them, you know, and help save people every day. And people say, how the heck can you guys do that? And I think it's that background of growing up thinking and believing that, and again, being passed on.
Nothing was impossible.
That nothing's impossible. Somehow, some way, you can find a way to bring order to that.
Okay. Now, you're in Brooklyn. You're a young guy, 22 years old, right? You're in your early 20s. What was the biggest challenges in Brooklyn?
Yeah, again, at that time, it was during the crack epidemic. You know, again, learning the whole process of being a firefighter, what's expected of you.
That was a crazy time when crack just blew up.
Yeah,
80s, 90s, just.
Yeah, it was a terrible time for, I think, New York City and most cities around the country. You know, just a lot of despair.
And then that bad situation with the drugs, awful social, right, ties into the fire department as well, right? Because you're going into places, you know, people are on these serious drugs. They're not making the greatest choices, right? And did that occur with fires, or? Oh,
without a doubt. That always, you know, can lead to fires and destruction, and you know, that type of situation where again people aren't as conscientious as they should be because they're impaired by drugs, and they do you know, crazy things or things that they wouldn't ordinarily do had they not been high on that drug at that time. And people probably forget about crack. It was incredibly addictive. So like it was one of those drugs that once somebody was on it,
very cheap to get, right?
Yeah. Again, I never bought any of it, never did any, thank God. But you know, again, like seeing the results of what folks looked like with that, certainly not something you want to participate in.
Were you guys given guidelines? So the epidemic was there, the fires are there, the instability. Were you guys given guidelines in terms of like how to handle that? How the people were acting, going into some really tough situations? You know, a fire is bad enough, but now you have people that might be a little bit disorientated from that stuff. Were you? I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, there's always
given instruction.
Yeah, there's always different guidelines that are passed along. You know, all unit bulletins,
because it was kind of ongoing, right? It was.
It was ongoing, right? And again, just like you know, everything we do in society, like you know, say during COVID, you're learning as you go, right? And new directives are coming out, and you're trying to keep everybody safe. Thankfully for us on the fire department, we're a lot more beloved than the police department. Police department deals with a lot worse scenarios than us. Like when I was in there still, you had those Crown Heights riots. So there's always like those simmering tensions between the police and some of the residents in some of those tougher neighborhoods. That was, you know, now was, I think, about the best time, it seems like, between them. There's
Did you guys ever get any resentment or anything like that, or did you?
Every once in a while you get something thrown at an apparatus or something because you're an authority figure. But most of the time we're beloved almost in every neighborhood that we go into because we're like the good guys. We're the cavalry. Sure. We come in to
with
go
a hose, not necessarily a weapon or anything.
Right. We're not seeing people at their worst. We're there to help people when they're having the worst case scenario. We're there, we help, and then we leave. And unfortunately, the folks who have to clean up after that have a lot of a tougher mission sometimes than we have going in and being the heroes.
Sure.
And you go back, you close that firehouse door, and again, like there's other folks who have to deal with the aftermath.
Your experience is really evolving, right? No matter, you're one of the older guys now, but the experience is always there, right? It's always changing. It's
and again, like everything's always changing for us. Again, like we gave a fire dynamics class this week, and again, trying to impart wisdom onto us because the fire ground has changed. Even from when I came on, materials have changed, more plastics, more oils in almost every product
different
we
toxins,
use.
right?
Right, so they burn a lot faster and a lot hotter. So, where we used to be 20 minutes to 25 minutes before something would get to a flashover stage of fire, now it's happening in 5 or 6 minutes, which is when we're just pulling up. So we're coming, and with e-bikes and e-batteries, we're coming up onto these
That stuff's crazy. Those
conflagrations that are happening rapidly. So we're dealing with a lot hotter fires at an earlier stage.
Are you getting fires from those e-bikes and the batteries?
Oh yeah, we've gone on a massive campaign over the last 3 years in New York City to try to help people understand them. And really, in essence, what it comes down to is if the battery's damaged, or if you're going to buy a replacement charger, always use the charger that came with your product.
Sure.
Because the replacement chargers,
it's not
the cheaper ones
right?
from China is not. And even if you think about if you go in the gas station and get one for your cell phone tomorrow, and your cell phone gets a little hotter, and you're like, man, my cell phone feels hot because it's not the right charger.
There's a reason behind that.
There's a reason behind that.
All right.
And so with the e-bikes, you get the same thing, and e-batteries, same thing.
All right, we're going to come back here for a second episode here on HMTV in the Fog of War. And Assistant Chief Mike Meyers from the New York City Fire Department. Please return for a second episode.